Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a discussion video about The Elder Scrolls 6. My name's Camel, and the topic of this video today is levitation and why I think it needs to come back in The Elder Scrolls 6, as it plays such a huge part in exploration. For anyone who hasn't experienced levitation in an Elder Scrolls game, don't worry, I've got plenty of examples of just that, with explanations as to why it's so important and how it changes the game. And trust me, by the end, you'll be craving some levitation spells in The Elder Scrolls 6, when you see the fat loot and secrets hidden away in high places. Now, to be quite frank, I have not played Arena and I have not played Daggerfall. I could not get them to work on my computer, and I have no idea if they have levitation in them. But I did play Morrowind, The Elder Scrolls 3, and that had levitation. Then in The Elder Scrolls 4, levitation was removed in Oblivion, and in The Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, levitation did not return. Now on the face of it, levitation may just seem like some goofy gimmick, letting you fly around or fly over hills instead of walking over them. And while I suppose it could be used for that, it does actually bring a completely new element to exploration. When I went from The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind to The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, I found that an Elder Scrolls game without levitation has a two-dimensional exploration system. You have forwards, backwards, and side to side. Sure, you can jump onto things occasionally, but that's nothing compared to the capabilities of levitation. Verticality is such an important aspect of exploration. It pretty much literally adds a new dimension, a third dimension, up and down. As we see in Dishonored 2, the game is cool and all on the ground and such, but once you realize it's not only horizontally fleshed out, but also vertically fleshed out, the space, depth, and love put into the game is multiplied many times over. Suddenly it doesn't become look around every corner for treasure, it becomes an almost limitless playground of exploration and possibilities. Provided, of course, that the game has been designed around a concept of levitation or three-dimensional exploration. Simply adding levitation to Skyrim wouldn't make the game any better because nothing is being built into the game with levitation in mind. Same goes for Oblivion, a two-dimensional exploration system. Again, of course, we can go up hills and stairs and jump onto the occasional ledge, but it's not true up and down exploration. And for someone like myself who has that kind of Tomb Raider or Indiana Jones, I want to go and explore every nook and cranny of hidden ancient temples, being able to fly upwards with a spell seems like something that's pretty much a no-brainer, especially in a universe where levitation is a canon spell. Like, it's in the world, it's in the lore, and there's just no reason for it to not be in The Elder Scrolls 6. I remember being very fond of levitation in Morrowind and getting excited walking into each cavern or dungeon that I went into, because you genuinely did not know what you would find. And even if there was something, you did not know if you would find it. Some of the hidden gems and wonders that could be found in secret crevices at the top of high cavernous ceilings are something that have been sorely missed in Oblivion and Skyrim. So come with me and I'll show you the difference between Skyrim's exploration system and Morrowind's exploration system with, of course, levitation. So firstly, in Skyrim, we walk into a cave like this, and it looks cool, nice high ceilings, adds a sense of wonder and wow factor. And while it does bring that feeling, nothing happens beyond the feeling. You find occasional chests like hidden behind some weird rock or something like this, which is good and doesn't need to be removed or replaced, like those things are good. But when you look up and you go, dude, there's like a complete ledge up there. I can see there's a physical ledge, and it's so frustrating knowing that you can't get up there and see what's up there. I want to see what's up there. I could see what was up there in Morrowind, and now a spell that's completely canon and in the lore I can't use. Just as an example, I'll turn clipping off and we'll fly up there. Of course we find nothing because levitation isn't in Skyrim, so the developers didn't put anything up here to find because no one's going to go up here. But imagine levitation did exist in Skyrim. We would fly up here, perhaps find a skeleton with a note, an injured wizard that levitated up here and was suffering too greatly from his wounds to regain enough magicka to levitate back down and ended up dying up there, lost to the ages, until of course we walk into this cavernous room and go, dude, I wonder what's up on that ledge. Fly up, have a look, and find this guy's corpse. Perhaps he just has some gold. Perhaps he has a unique item. Even just finding his empty skeleton still satisfies that curiosity for exploration more than, say, finding a chest behind a rock on ground level. Everything that is currently in a dungeon in Skyrim and considered hidden, it's not usually that hidden. There are some things where you need to use like a whirlwind sprint to go across a gap to get to a chest. That's probably the limit of finding cool things that require pure curiosity and you going, how do I get up on that ledge because I can see a chest? But a game designed around levitation brings that further, because you do only find things, on the ceiling because you were curious enough to go, can I see a sword sticking out of the ceiling? And fly up there and discover there is a sword there. Again, it's kind of that reward for you wanting to explore rather than just following a path and then there's a chest there or something like that. You know what I mean? Like everything in a Skyrim dungeon is kind of, you're led straight there with a path. It's like you can take this path or this path. You'll find treasure at the end of one of them. And when you do, you don't feel like that you've discovered anything, you just feel like that you've been led to this thing. So now I'll give you an example of levitation in action in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. So here we are at the end of this incredibly long dungeon. As we can see, it's all nooked and crannied and cramped, but we're like 500 meters underground, so it is going to feel that way, and should feel that way. But how cool is this room? End of a dungeon, there's some treasure, there's some steam vents, waterfalls, flames. Like, damn son, what a cool way to end a dungeon. And it is. It's a cool way to end a dungeon. And this is how a dungeon in Skyrim would end, with just some flat, accessible stuff like this. But for a curious cat with levitation, you might be like, I wonder where the water's coming from. Then you look up the waterfall, and you see that there is a whole cavern system up there. There's no stairs, there's no pathway. The only way to get up there and explore up there, what the hell's up there? This is where levitation comes in. So now we're flying up, we've gone through 3 waterfalls. It keeps going up. This is a huge cave system. Again, anyone with that Tomb Raider lust for exploration and finding the hidden lost wonders of the world, this kind of system's for you. I don't know if it's just me, but I find this kind of stuff way cooler than any of Skyrim's dungeons. I love the fact that you can complete a dungeon, and then if you have that little flair to explore a little bit further, every now and then you will be rewarded with a marvelous wonder such as this one. Not only is it beautiful, and not only are we just going, dude, what have we discovered? Once we get to the top of the cavern, we discover there is a secret hidden Daedric door. And then we come out and we've discovered this underground Daedric temple lost to time, half submerged. We've found something. We've discovered something on our own. Again, if this was in Oblivion or Skyrim, there would just be a staircase or a pathway that leads us here. But with the levitation system, we are rewarded for loving the world that they've built and wanting to explore it fully. And again, not all of the time will you find stuff. Sometimes you fly up, absolutely nothing there. But that's okay, we don't want to become spoilt. We want it to be special when we do find something. Speaking of rewards, check this out. In Morrowind, there are these purple crystals that make this kind of singing, ringing noise. At the end of this long, tedious dungeon, we find a boat underground in an ancient temple. In the boat's a decorated skeleton, we find a unique axe. Like, this is an epic reward. It's at the end of the dungeon and it's definitely worthy of being called an end of dungeon reward. And that it is. But while I was standing in this room, I could hear the crystals. I could hear the ringing, singing noise of those purple crystals. I kept looking around and I could not find them. Couldn't see them. So what do? You whip out levitation. If you thought Skyrim had hidden treasures, prepare to get your pants blown off. Hidden away, tucked away in the tiniest little gap in rocks were the crystals. With the crystals was a chest and a unique helmet. There's no quest to get this helmet, there's no quest marker, there's no hint that this is up here other than the faint ringing noise I could hear of the crystals. The Daedric Face of God, a unique helmet in Morrowind. Only discovered and acquired by a genuine love for exploring. And with luck as well. I mean, this is so easily missed, and I kind of like that. It gives a sense of the world's bigger than you, rather than you being bigger than the world. Instead of being led to everything, you really have to go out of your way to seek these things to find them. But instead of taking the literal example, I think we should take the concept. Put things like this. Of a similar nature, these ideas should be placed into the Elder Scrolls 6. Because again, in Oblivion and Skyrim, this kind of three-dimensional sense of wonder was lost a bit. When I say a bit, I mean pretty much fully. Again, you could jump up onto the occasional ledge and find a skull with some coins or something like that, but it does not compare at all to having to fly up these 7-story waterfall caverns to find the only Daedric pauldron in the game, and then above that finding a door to a hidden Daedric ruin where there's a unique Dremora lord. Like, there's a bit of a difference. And to have those kind of systems, we need levitation. Well, you can use it for other things, for getting over hills and stuff like that. It's definitely more of a tool to accommodate your travels to a fully fleshed out and vertically fleshed out world. So as well as this kind of vertical dungeon exploration, levitation does have some other uses. Say you want to get across a river, you can levitate up there. If a fight's getting a little bit too intense for you, you can levitate your way out. There's a whole bunch of cool different uses you can use it for. Now in Morrowind, levitation was a spell effect that you would cast on yourself, and it would last for a certain period of time depending on how powerful the spell was that you cast. I've seen that people are worried about a similar effect like this because you can use levitation on yourself and then fly around with a bow taking out enemies while pretty much being invulnerable. And even though that was possible in Morrowind, I never did that, but I suppose a workaround for this would be to make levitation a dual cast spell, a spell that takes up both of your hands and is channeled. So again, takes up both hands and it only lasts while you're holding down both triggers. So while you're flying around, you cannot do anything but fly around. This would stop completely levitation being exploited for combat purposes. I also feel that the spell, when implemented into the game with this kind of concept that you've been seeing on screen for a while now, it should be a pretty expensive spell. Like something that's used when it needs to be used instead of just flying around like Superman constantly. Although like any spell, if you play the entire game as a wizard and put every point into magicka and max out your alterations skill tree or whatever school levitation comes under, you'll probably have a pretty damn powerful levitation spell. Or you'll be able to channel it for a long time and fly around. But at that point, you've earned that, you know? If you have the means to fly around with levitation for 2 minutes straight, it probably means that you've deserved that ability. Now, I don't know if there was an engine limitation or if it had something to do with the character AI that would horribly conflict with levitation. For whatever reason that it wasn't in The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion and The Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, hopefully it doesn't matter. Hopefully the game engine in The Elder Scrolls 6 will be absolutely beast and will be able to support levitation or will be able to work around whatever was stopping levitation being implemented into The Elder Scrolls 4 and 5. So to see levitation come back would be a good oh, good, they brought this back. They kind of fixed that hole in the lore there. For me personally, I really want to see this three-dimensional exploration come back. And again, it doesn't have to overwrite anything that existed in Oblivion or Skyrim. It simply adds to it. It's just an extra thing on there. So every now and then when you walk into a big dungeon and you go, I wonder what's up on that ledge, you can find out, you can get up there now. And hopefully some developer that's behind the ball has put some cool stuff up there. Some environmental storytelling or some unique item. Something where that thirst for discovery is quenched. Now some of you might be thinking, what about the Levitation Act of the Third Era, year 421? This was Oblivion's way of explaining why levitation wasn't in Oblivion and Skyrim. This is their excuse for it, but I feel like there was an actual technical reason it wasn't in the games. But anyway, here's the Levitation Act. The Levitation Act is a law passed throughout the Empire in the Third Era, year 421, that banned the use of levitation magic. The Imperial Province of Morrowind is not subject to the law because of lazy writing at Bethesda. Because, although it is part of the Empire, the native Dunmer retained self-rule and house traditions. As such, levitation magic was prevalent in Morrowind and Vvardenfell in the late Third Era. So all they've done is explain why levitation was in Morrowind and why it wasn't in Oblivion and Skyrim. And they've done it very poorly. First of all, this is the dumbest shit I've ever read, dude. So the Empire brings in a law that says no more levitation. And then what happens across the entirety of Tamriel? Levitation is never seen of or heard of again. Whew, I tell you what, it's a good thing they didn't make necromancy illegal. Oh wait, it is. Oh no, I suppose we're not going to see any necromancy in the Elder Scrolls 6 either. It's against Imperial law. Sorry. We're following the same rules here. Not allowed to have necromancy. I suppose killing is also a serious crime in Imperial law as well. Well, we're following the same rules as the Levitation Act. I suppose we won't be able to kill anyone in the Elder Scrolls 6 either. Oh, that's a bit annoying. Trespassing, that's also against Imperial law. Can't do that anymore. That won't be in the Elder Scrolls 6. Stealing is also against Imperial law. Sorry anyone who likes the Thieves Guild, but it's against Imperial law. We won't have it in the Elder Scrolls 6 then. Pickpocketing, sorry, that's out. Verbal assault? Sorry, it looks like anyone who likes speechcraft to any degree. You're gonna be a bit disappointed in Elder Scrolls 6. Sorry, but in Imperial law. You get my drift. The Levitation Act is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever read and is the worst excuse. With the laziest writing. Like, yeah, it was banned and then every wizard ever, everywhere never used it again and it's never seen of or heard of. But everything else that was banned, you can still do that in the game. Yeah, that's how it worked. Except in Morrowind, it wasn't banned, that's why you could use it. Wow, it doesn't sound like you put that together in the last 2 minutes of your shift on a Friday. So if anyone was wondering what my thoughts were on the Levitation Act of the Third Era, 421, my thoughts are it's stupid, and if they're going to apply that rule, that it's against the law, you can't do it anymore, then they pretty much have to ban half of the shit in the game. Now I'm going to show you the one example that I'm aware of where in Skyrim there's actually a ledge that requires levitation to get to. And of course it isn't in the game, so no one can actually get to it without the use of console commands. So in the Karstag Caverns, we will see this series of waterfalls, but if we look closely, we'll notice a skeleton hanging off the edge of the waterfall. Now in Skyrim, because levitation doesn't exist, you go, oh, skeleton. If this was in Morrowind, on the other hand, you go, oh mate, there's a skeleton up on that ledge. There is guaranteed to be some other shit hidden up there. Now for whatever reason, in this case, in Skyrim, there is some other hidden shit up there. So these are the kind of telltale signs that there's some cool hidden stuff where you're going to need levitation to get to. So here we go, I'm using my make-believe levitation spell in Skyrim as an example of what it would look like in the Elder Scrolls 6. Boom, we floated up, we're channeling the spell. We can float around. There's a skeleton. Behind the skeleton, there's a boss level chest. There's an ebony weapon and some gold too. This is the kind of stuff that I want to see in the Elder Scrolls 6. Hidden away, tucked away. It's not too hidden that you're going to miss it every single time, but it's hidden enough where you actually have to go out of your way a little bit to get to it. So hopefully by this point I've kindled a flame of interest in regards to levitation and what it means in terms of vertical exploration in the Elder Scrolls 6, and what it has meant in previous Elder Scrolls games, and what it took away from Elder Scrolls games that didn't have it. So although maybe seeming like a goofy gimmick, it does actually play a pretty big part in terms of like the way that the world is fleshed out. Finding a skeleton next to the boss in a dungeon is less cool than finding a skeleton in a secret hidden cavern that you have to fly up a waterfall to get to in a dungeon. To me anyway. That's cooler. So there are my thoughts on levitation in the Elder Scrolls 6, and not just the spell, but what the spell would mean in terms of the world design. Because again, if you just add levitation to Skyrim, it's like, nah, you don't really get anything out of it because no thought's been put into Skyrim with levitation in mind. So vertical exploration and world fleshing out in this three-dimensional space and movement has to be accompanied by levitation, and the other way round. One without the other is meaningless. So as always with all Elder Scrolls 6 discussion videos, be sure to leave your thoughts on both levitation in just the spell in general, but more importantly, what it means to world design. If you played Morrowind, let me know if you miss it, or maybe you don't miss it. And if you've never played Morrowind, let me know if you think that it's a cool idea. And although the graphics and combat and whatever may not be that cool in Morrowind, perhaps you think having to fly up a waterfall is pretty damn cool. Also, if you have any thoughts on how the spell could be improved beyond the ideas that I've put forth in this video, be sure to let us all know. It'd be nice to bounce some ideas off each other. Feel free to check out the playlist on screen, like, share, comment, and consider subscribing. Thanks for supporting the channel, and I'll see you shortly in the next video. I'll see you over there in a second.